This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. This week we're going to do a couple of things on our video. We're of course going to show what we're doing on the boat this week, and we're also going to go over some timing as far as what we're doing, how long it's taking us, and when we think we're going to finish.
So we will get to learn when we're going to splash. But before we get to all that, we're going to go ahead and get to the lot and do a bunch of work. So stick around for the end of the video and you'll find out when we think we're going to get this boat in the water. Today we're tabbing in the new extension of floor here, but we decided we are going to extend that over onto the main bulkhead as well and add a little wider section because, you know, bulkhead 6, which is this big beast here, is the main bulkhead of the boat, and this supports a lot of things, including this is what the mast shrouds get bonded to. And so they're going to be coming down with carbon fiber along this whole area here. And so they get attached to this bulkhead. This bulkhead is just incredibly important. And so adding a little bit more tabbing down here is certainly not going to hurt things. Okay, get this extra wide tab in here. Okay, ready to go. It started sprinkling outside, but unlike in the past of working on this boat, we now have a sealed up interior, which means that on rainy days, we can keep working because we got a ton of stuff to do here in the center portion, salon and cockpit, which is all covered. And so since it's raining right now, we can't do some work over there. We're going to start putting in all the cupboards that go in here. And if you look here, you'll see what I mean. This is the port side towards the stern after the stairway set of cupboards. We're going to build bottom up. So we're going to take this piece here, and we're going to put these in like so. And there's 4 of them. So these move along here like this. And they all are going to hold the first level of shelf up. And then this strange piece here, this big one right here, ends up going right on the end over here. Now it's a little weird because it's got this L-shaped piece here that goes down here onto the floor. But we're getting rid of that. So we're going to be cutting this off somewhere up here, probably between these 2 points right there, because the plans have a platform here that you come down onto, but you hit your head on the top of the doorway if we built it that way. And so we're not going to do that. We're going to make the stairs go all the way down, and you'll step off the last stair down to the floor level, and now you won't hit your head walking into the doorway. But that means that we don't want the platform that would have sat on top of here, so we're going to be lopping this off on there. But we're not going to do that right away. We're going to go ahead and glue it in to this position over here before we cut this off. We just won't glue it down along this edge right here and the bottom. We'll let that be free floating, but we'll glue in the part that attaches here. And that way we can make sure when we cut this that we're cutting it at a place where we like it later. So that's the plan. So right now I've just sanded all of these surfaces, and I'm about to put some alcohol on and clean them. And Brian's going to mix up some thickened epoxy, and we're going to tack these down, all 5 of these, so the 4 small ones and this big end piece on the end. We're going to tack these all in so that we can let it set up and we can do some tabbing on there tomorrow if it's raining, or whatever day we need to. All right. Got it glued. So, got these 5 pieces in here, and they're all vertical and all tacked in right now. It's a little more exciting than I wanted to be, because somehow I screwed up this one. I had to adjust it as he was gluing the other ones, but we got it there, so all good. Let's pull the peel ply off, and our new cove and double tabbing for this bulkhead is on. So it goes now all the way out there. So that means that we can start getting this stairway over. But in order to do that, we are going to need to put in the slider. So here. This is the rail for the slider, which is going to go approximately right there. And our difficulties are that we can't really just bolt down, because they expect you to put bolts down through here into there. But this is the sealed bridge deck, and there's no way to put a nut on the other side. Now we could put some thickened epoxy in there first, and then use a wood screw down through there. But I think we're going to rather bolt through from the side here. So we're just taking a look at where this is going to sit and how we're going to do that. But that's about where it goes, and maybe just slightly back further here. Our issue is that this piece goes here, and we have to leave room for the window over here, the window frame to come out. So it's going to be a little bit more over here, probably about there, not quite centered, but there. And then you can see where the door recesses to over here, which is why it matches up with the top up there. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, that's almost exactly, because it's this line right here. So yeah, the door will come right back and stop here, and then the line handling area will begin right there. Now there's also a window that we have to cut in that goes in here, and that just adds more light and into the salon from the cockpit area here. We already have this big window here, the big door, but the door is clear, so when it moves over there, the window behind that will still let light through while the door's open. Anyway, so our next dilemma here is to figure out how to get that track down, because once we put the track down, we can then put the stairway in. Now, if we bolt it from the other side here, if we ever had to remove this track, we could get in through the cupboards and unbolt those, and we wouldn't have to do any cutting through this stairway and such in order to get to this. So that's another good reason why we want to bolt this through. Another thing we were looking at is storage space here, because inside of this stairway here, there's a whole big open area in here, and that's not part of the bike garage. So what we're thinking about doing here is putting a cupboard opening at the end down there from that bedroom, and that would access all of this space that goes behind there and into the stairs. And so that could be some nice long-term storage for things that are like winter clothing that we won't need when we're in the tropics, and things that we need in the tropics, like say our SUPs or whatever, deflated, can be stored away here if we're up in cold areas for quite some time. So it'd be a good long-term storage as long as the things we put in here were fairly light, because we don't want to add more weight towards the stern of the boat here. But light stuff, like say winter clothing and deflated toys and things like that, could all get stored in here and in a nice out-of-the-way space that's not being used for anything else. We're running into a lot of issues with the kit right now. That means we're going to have to do some custom work. The stairs right here are not a width that we created. That just was from the kit. We just put the stairs in. So this width from here to here is from the kit. So that's where these stairs have to go, and they were always designed to have the slider go behind here, which is not something we changed. That's in the plan. So this has to go wide enough for that track down there. So that's where it's sitting right here. And if you'll see, this floor is pinned up against the bulkhead right there. But this edge should be even here with this part. And so that is not right from the kit. So we're going to end up having to cut this off and add this piece in right here to make that work. And then also, this wasn't cut either. This should be cut back, notched back, because it has to come even with that straight edge right up there, because that's where the door slides in back here when the slider, opens up. So we got to fix that, and we got to fix this on there to make this all work. Lots of fun. Off we go. So we have some issues here with this whole system here, because this track that comes in for the slider, once we put the stairway here, we're never going to be able to get to that area. It's going to be a real skinny area back there. And so that causes some troubles, because there's a lot of prep work and stuff down here. We have to fair this, and then we have to mount the track in. Well, actually, we have to fair it, sand it, paint it, mount the track, all of that before we could put this stairway in. And the stairway itself, on the inside at least, would have to be faired, sanded, and painted as well. So with this little area up here, all of that, because it's all going to be inaccessible to us once the stairway is glued into place. So we made a simple decision on this. We're not gluing the stairway in for a very long time. So instead, what we're going to do right now is we're going to glue this back wall in here. That'll give support to this top here. The stairway, as we've built it, is a single unit, and it doesn't need to be glued into work. So what we can do is we can get this wall and this top set up, and then we can just set the stairway here and use it all we want until we get to the point where we're ready to fair and sand and paint the entire boat. Then we'll fair and sand and paint, and at the very last, we'll pull the stairway out after, we'll pull out before we fair and sand, but we'll have it out, and it'll get all faired and sanded, and then we'll glue it down at the last. So that stairway is going to be a very long time out here where it's not glued down, but it'll be in use. We just need this wall glued in so that we can use it to support the floor up here so that we can build our Helm's area up top. So right now we're about to glue this board in, and this one, Helm 16. And so I'm sanding it and cleaning it, and Brian's going to mix up some epoxy. I think I'm done over here. It looks good. Try it again. Okay, so this little fixed piece is in here. That was a case of the kit being cut a little bit wrong right there. That's no big deal. But right now, we need this glued, and then we'll get tabbed in and all that stuff, and then we're going to get this top piece mounted on here so that it can support our weight, so that we can get up top and work on the roof line handling area, which is the whole reason that we were doing this right now, to get to that. Speaking of that stairway, we're going to go ahead and set it in here now because we got to get it out of our way. There, I can grab it right there. Did I hit it?
No.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said no. I'm going to slide it back, but not to the wall. Just be careful. It's hard to be careful. I think that's close enough. All right, so that gets that out of the way and allows us to walk up here as needed. But we can't work on that yet because we got to let that wall set up. So that looks like a tomorrow job that we're going to try work on the top. Which means that we're going to work inside. Yesterday, we started work on the shelving area here. And the reason we want these shelves in, of course, is so that we can get the floor in. We need to build up to it. And so right now, we can glue the shelf down on top. So we're tabbing in these cupboard supports here. And you may ask, why tab cupboards? Well, because they're actually part of the structure. All this ties together to hold this bridge deck up. So, very important area, even though it seems like it's just cupboards. Everything is peel plied, ready to set up for tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to glue down the top. I don't think we're going to do it today because the peel ply is in the way. We do have to stick a cove and tabbing along the back still. We'll go cut those today and get them prepped for tomorrow. Until we get the stairs put into the salon coming down into the hulls, this is our method of getting in and out now. We just come in from the side. It's one of the benefits of not putting the side of this boat on for a long time. Now, what we're doing right now, we're getting ready to put this shelf part of the cupboards right here on, but we still got a tab along this top edge here. And so, as you can see, we've already pulled the peel ply off of the tabbing we did yesterday here, and it's came out very nicely. I just sanded and cleaned all this along that edge, and Brian's going to be mixing up epoxy in a moment, and we're going to get this tabbed in, and then after lunch we're going to lay down the shelf portion here, and then after that there'll be some new pieces that go on here, that go above here, and we'll raise up this cupboard section even more. So I don't think we'll be putting these on today, but the shelf, the tabbing and the shelf for sure, and then maybe on Friday we'll put these in, because Brian and I have decided to not take the 4-day weekend. So we're going to work Friday and Saturday as normal, even though it's the big holiday weekend. And we just want to get this boat done, so we don't want to take days off when we don't have to. So we'll take Thursday off, but that's our normal day off anyway. That happens to be Thanksgiving on Thursday, so that just worked out, and we're working on normal schedule. Time to get these coves in here and tab that. But we're also going to put the baseboard at the bottom here on as well. So I'm going to do that all at once. Just the right amount of epoxy, all used up. Let's put this on. Okay, all set. We got our baseboard there. This is a little triangular storage area. This would be good for things like shoes, as an example. Could sit in there. The bigger ones, you might be able to get, life preserver in there. So it's still a useful space, even though it's a triangular space, and this keeps things from sliding out that you stick in there. And then up in here, we're going to have cupboards. And right here is our washing machine. And there's one on both sides of the boat. They're small, and but we decided to go with 2 small ones rather than 1 larger one, because we had nowhere to put a large machine. And by putting 2 smaller ones, one on each side, if one of them goes bad, we can still do some washing while we get it replaced. So the redundancy was the kind of idea of going with 1 on each side of the boat, but when they're both working, the people in these 2 cabins can use the one on their side, and the people on the other side can use theirs, and it doesn't take up too much space. Fits right in this little cupboard right here. And these 2 little small cupboards on the sides will probably be where we keep laundry detergents and, crap like that you need. Always stuff you need to put in little cubbies, so they'll be useful one way or another there. Okay, so that's what we're going to get done on this. Probably tomorrow we'll glue the base in and start putting the next layer of supports in underneath of that. So what we're trying to do is get this piece of floor here in so that we can extend the bridge deck out here and get to work when we want to on the table seating right here. Because the reason I want to get to the table seating fairly soon, it's not critical, but fairly soon, is for an odd reason. I haven't decided what I'm doing with the table yet. The table that's up here in the configuration that the boat planned for is U-shaped, right here. But I'm considering changing it to L-shaped. We actually can seat more people with the L-shaped table than we can with the U-shape. And but the boat is built with a U-shape designed. So we're going to mock up the U-shaped one up here and sit down at it and see what we think. And if we want more room, we're going to extend the table down to an L-shaped table. More on that later. We want to put in this next step down onto the sugar scoop here. Now we can't finish it because we have to do a lot of work on the steering down in here, and it comes through over there, comes down here at a 45, and then it has an attachment arm that comes over through here and gets to the kick-up rudder mechanism over there. And that means that we have to be able to get in here and to do work and clean this all up and everything because it's really dirty right now. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to tab the bottom and sides in. So we got that all prepped already. And then with that in, we're going to do is we're going to temp in the floor here. So we're going to put a couple of a support across here, and it'll already sit over on this bulkhead here. So as long as we put a support across here for it to land on, we can set it in here and have this step area here, and then we can just lift this back off again when we want to work on the steering, and until we get that all set. Now once we get the steering all done, when we glass this in across here, we still need access here. So what we'll be doing is we're going to be cutting a hatch into this, and that hatch will probably go right off over the edge of this, so that the hatch will lift from this edge up like that, and we have access to this. Because you know, with the steering mechanism, we're going to have to be able to inspect that. We're going to have to be able to adjust it, tighten it, fix it if it breaks. So we have to have access to the steering mechanism here. So that's why we're going to have to put a big old hatch here that we can lift up and get down into the steering area right here. But so right now Brian's over here mixing up our first batch of thickened epoxy, and I'll cove the sides here, and immediately after we'll tab that all in, so that'll get secured. Now the floor only comes to about here, so where that hole is, that gap right there, won't be a problem because it's completely exposed even with the floor in, because that's where that steering bar is coming through, and we don't know what we have to do up there yet, so we don't want to close that up until the steering mechanism's all done. Now I've contacted my good friend, the machinist, Michael, and I should be seeing him somewhere in the next couple weeks out here to get a plan made, and then he's going to create the steering mechanism for me, and I'm going to make the bearings that it runs through. I already know how I'm going to do that, and there's 5 bearings I've got to make, and I'll show you how I do that. But he's going to make the bar itself, and then I'm going to make the bearings that it slides on. But first off, seal this up. One more thing tabbed in. It seems like endless tabbing, but it won't be. We just keep going, and eventually we'll be done. Brian and I are temping in the cupboards here. Now the bottom ones down here are glued in already, but everything above from here up is all just sitting here. We just want to make sure that everything was going to be fitting properly, and here we have the deeper cupboards, and then these are a little shallower, and the reason for that is this is actually the chair for the table. That angle right there is where the back of the table is, and so there's going to be storage further forward up there, and so they made these ones shallower here than these ones. And then this square opening over here is where the washing machine goes. And it's a good thing we're temping this in, because we had to think about water in, water out, and of course power. And so the water is going to come from that inner conduit right there, and it's going to come down, and it's going to run along the back of this little triangular area down here, and it'll run up here and come out behind the washing machine. But the power comes from over here. This is where our AC power is right there, and so that's going to come up here and have to come over to the washing machine here. But we don't want to run it through this conduit that we've already run, because that's carrying power for a different usage, and we need to turn out right here for the washing machine. So we're going to run a smaller conduit right now before all this stuff's in and add a smaller conduit that runs over that'll just service the washing machine here. Now we have to do the same thing on the opposite side of the boat because there's a washing machine just like this on both sides. And so therefore we're going to run power over the same way, we're going to run water over the same kind of way, and do both. But since these cupboards aren't in yet, these are just all sitting here, we can just remove all this and put the conduits in and run the water and all that good stuff right now, then glue in all these cupboards. Now we'll still have access to this water if we ever have to do anything to get to it. And if we ever had to, this isn't the hull, this is just a board, and we can drill through there or cut out a hatch or something like that if we ever had to get there. But it's unlikely. The only place you really might have to get there is right behind the washing machine. And if you move the washing machine, there's plenty of room to put a access port right there later if we need it. So that'll all work out. And so working on that. And also right now, Brian's over at the stern, and we're going to be putting in our next level down of the sugar scoop. So let me go over there. Brian was just in here pulling off the peel ply that we tabbed this yesterday. And we're looking for the other pieces. This is our white container where our smaller pieces are. And so we've got names of stuff written. So I'm looking for trans. I don't see trans. Yeah. Trans, right there. Okay. This is trans 1. And the one below it is also trans 1. Maybe I'm going to get down and take this off. Yikes. There was no step where I was stepping. Go take a look. Yeah. That's one very, very snug fit. Snug is good though. Brian and I started dry fitting in some of the stern area for the sugar scoops here. We showed you us putting in this this level in up here, but now we're getting down to the sugar scoop area, and right here is where the kick-up rudders go in. Now I can't dry fit this in because we have to cut the hole right here, cut this piece out, and then this piece will drop down, and it'll drop down up there as well. And then this becomes part of the sugar scoop. And then this is the actual kick-up rudder that fits in here. And when it kicks up, it's going to pivot about right here, and it pivots up like this. And so that's basically the size of the kick-up rudder box that we have to build. And so that'll be right in here. Now there's some custom things we have to figure out about how we want to do this rudder box, but in general, that's where it goes. And so the box has got one of these on each side, and we'll have to get to that pretty soon here. But one of the things that's something I may just have to live with is the size of these steps. This step up is 12.5 inches, that in millimeters. And this one is also 12.5. So they're the same step up, but it's a pretty large step. And so one thing that we could do if we want, and I'll consider it, is to put another layer on top of these two and bring this up this far, make that step a little shallower, and then put another layer on top of this one as well. So this one would have to get twice as thick, and that one would have to get single thick, and that would cut the size of the steps down a bit. So that's something I'm going to have to consider doing. Now, before you think I'm crazy, this is what the other 1520 being in Australia did. I noticed that they thickened up these floors to change the height of those stairs as well. So something we have to think about. Good morning, it's Saturday, and last week's video was released this morning, and there's already a bunch of comments. Thank you all for commenting. But one of the comments, and I've had this one before, was, you know, when I'm doing certain things like cutting with a saw or routing like I'm about to do right now, that I need to put a mask on so that I don't inhale some of this stuff coming off. Well, I do put safety glasses on because I need to protect my eyes. But if the thing I'm going to do like this is going to take me less than 3 minutes, and this will take far less than that, I just hold my breath. I don't know if you guys know my history, but I'm a master scuba diver trainer. I've spent a lot of time underwater, and holding my breath that long is really not very difficult for me. By the time I go get a mask, put it on, do that, just waste time. I can just hold my breath and not inhale this for the amount of time that's necessary. Now, if it's a longer thing, sure, I would put on a mask. Breathe. There's nothing here now. On these big pieces, no. Walk towards me. We can't get them up the side stairs, so we're taking them up over. Get my broom out of the way. I got it. We reached the point where we want to glue this top of the helm area on, but it's really tricky because there's a couple of issues that we have to deal with. One is that little step over there, and what we decided to do there is sort of warp that corner up to make it match rather than have that tripping hazard as we walk around that corner every single time, because this is when you leave to go up the deck every time. Second thing is this stairway here. I mentioned that we can't mount it in because we're going to need to fairing sand and paint that whole pocket area there for the slider. So this is just going to be a separate piece, and for now it's just going to sit in here like that, and it'll act as support here, and that's fine, but we can't glue it. But we want to glue that section and get that fixed up so that we can walk up here. And we want to be able to work on this helm area. Well, this is plenty of support to walk on it, even though it's not glued down, but not out there. If we step out there, this is going to warp down because the wall's right here, and that's the end of support. So we need to attach that and get it all bonded together over there. But how do we, if we bond that, how do we deal with the stairway? So what we've decided is that this section right here can be unbonded, and the section in the back can be bonded, and this will warp enough for us to lift it up, bend this later to put our bead of glue in there and get the stairway attached down. So it's going to be half glued. We're going to glue the back edge and tab it, and then later we'll just warp this up a little bit when we want to attach the stairway. So we can't attach along this edge either, because if it has to warp up, so we're only going to attach along this back section over here. And so that's what we're going to try and get to today, is getting this all bonded in. And so by Monday, we should be able to walk up here. And once we can walk up here, then we get to the whole reason for building this right now, which is we want to get rid of this opening up here and get that all worked in, sealed in for the helm line handling, and then get this hardtop, which is the helm hardtop, it's just laying here, up where it's supposed to be. And so the first step with that is to getting something a platform we could work on to get up there and do that stuff. And that's what's going to happen pretty much right now. We're going to start attaching in the very first piece that goes over there, because see Brian down there, he's working on this special piece. It's a very oddly shaped angled piece, and that goes in right here, so the flat part there, and then that angled piece goes up along here. So that's the piece we're going to try and get in here right now, and once that's in and glued, we'll start tabbing and getting that very, very well bonded. We started work on the kick-up rudder section, and the first thing we had to do is fill this routed out section that we did earlier, way earlier when we were building the hulls. And this is just to seal these edges right here so that it's not a foam edge. It adds a little strength as well, but mostly it's just to seal the foam edges along here. As Jeff was just saying to me, a lot of water is going to be hitting this, because this is the water line right here, the 100 millimeters from the top of this ground. So it's just, the water line maybe is about where my pen is right here. So even a slight ripple, water is going to be washing in and out of that. So we need to make sure, of course, the whole boat needs to be sealed, but we definitely need to make sure this is sealed. Jeff's up here sanding to prepare the helm station so that we can put this strange little piece in that goes between the deck and the helm platform. And once he gets it all sanded up, we're going to bond in that strange little piece. It's time to start getting our steps in now. And that's part of securing this whole helm station. So this is our first step that's going to go in. And we routed out the front here so that we can fill that, and we'll do that right now as well. So first thing we're going to need to do is glue this down. And I don't have to know where the board lands if I put it on here.
Not yours.
So what we're checking here is we want to make sure that this step is slightly downhill. Otherwise we're going to have pooling water at the back of the step. We want it to run off down on the deck and out. So we were just double checking to make sure that this is a downhill angle. And it wasn't, but this corner was down too much, so we've adjusted it now. But we need to put a rock out on this end because there's no way to really clamp it. Yeah, out here as much as we can. Okay, now let me check it again. Perfect. All right, we're good.
Is it all the way down on that corner?
And underneath it here, is it down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and over here it's down, and here it's flush.
Yes.
Okay, looks good. So once again, we made really good progress, and you're going to see where we're at right now, because we're going to talk about when we're going to finish this boat. You know, where we're at, when it'll be done, or at least when we think it'll be done. And phase 5 of our building was supposed to take up till the end of November of this year, and we're at the end of November, so it's a perfect time to look at the list of things in phase 5 that we wanted to accomplish and what we actually accomplished. So we have a list here, and the Admiral's going to read the list for you of what we wanted to accomplish, and I'll make a couple little comments.
So basically, phase 5 was seal the outside of the boat. And one of the items in that is build the bow compartments.
Right, and those include like the big, huge lockers that are up on deck and all the little compartments that are around them. So a lot of little fiddly work up there, which we got completely done.
Also, build the sail locker.
Right, that's in the port bow, and there we had to seal that all up and make the top of the cupboard for the watertight compartment underneath, and we got all that done as well.
And build the workroom.
It's on the opposite side of the sail locker. It's just configured differently so that we can make it into a little workroom, and we got that done as well.
Add the decks.
Right, because we wanted to seal this boat. That's the main thing of phase 5. So we get to those little bow lockers and all that stuff was in order so that we could put the decks down, and we got all the decks down.
Add the window panels.
So above the decks, we have the cabin top, but between there is the window panels, and those also help seal the boat up, so we need to get those done, and we got those in as well.
Lower the cabin roof.
Now that those windows were in, the cabin roof was up higher so we could put them in, but we needed to lower it down, and we did that as well.
Build the Helm station platform.
Now that we got started on, and we're still working on it, but I'd say it's within a day or two, so it'll be done by the end of November, so technically it'll still be done in phase 5.
Extend the boxed bridge deck.
Right, and that's the box bridge deck is what we raised up in phase 4, but it's wider than that, and so we have to put some extensions in, and we put in some of the extensions so that the soles aren't on those yet, but very close.
Add the conduits for electrical.
Those run in those extensions that we put in, and that we did get done.
And finally, work on the sugar scoops.
And we've begun work on the sugar scoops as far as we can take them, but there are still a few days to go on them. But we'll get that pretty much done, and again, just about by the end of November, so still done in phase 5. So that's it. That's our entire list, I believe. And we got it all pretty much done this time. That hasn't happened in every phase, but in this phase, we managed to accomplish all of our goals, which is good news for us.
But when will we finish building the boat?
Right. To start with, let's take a look at what we estimated to complete the boat. The truth is, we had no idea how long it would take to finish this boat. Schoenig is where we got our guesstimate from because they estimate 10,000 man-hours to build this model.
Yeah. So with Brian and Phil each putting in about 2,000 hours per year over the 2 years, we get to 8,000 hours. Then we hope to recoup about 2,000 hours from future crew members that come to help us build the boat. So we get to that approximate estimate of 10,000.
That would get the boat done in 2 years, but we estimated an additional contingency of 6 months on top of that, just because there's just unknown things.
We started in April of 2023, so 2 years would bring us to April of 2025. But if we add in that 6 months of contingency, we would arrive at October of 2025.
Right, that's the estimate. But now let's look at what we actually have accomplished so far in man-hours. The first 6 months went great, and we got full-time work in, and our crew showed up and got their 400 hours in there, and things were going spectacularly as far as man-hours go. And then we reached winter. And what a winter it was! It was the most rain in recorded history for Southern California. And unfortunately, that cost us quite a bit of time because we are an outdoor build, and we just couldn't work in the rain. And so that cut back our hours significantly, including cut our crew hours back as well. So Brian and I only got in about 750 hours instead of the 1,000 we would have expected in that next 6 months. And the crew only got in about 300 because they were just as effective because none of us could work on those rainy days.
Well, when the winter of rain was over, we entered an above average heat for the summer. There were so many days that were over 90 degrees, and remember, we can't epoxy over 84 degrees.
So that cost us a lot more time, as Brian and I just couldn't do epoxy, and pretty much everything we do during this period involves epoxy. So Brian and I, again, only got around 750 hours each over that next 6 months. And so that's the way it was. Now, the good news is that we actually added a few more crew members, so they still got their 400 hours in because there were more of them. But Brian and I could only get our 750 in just because of the heat.
That means we worked 6,100 hours of time, but we expected to work 7,500 hours of time, and that's a deficit of 1,400 hours, and that works out to be about 4 months.
So, in other words, we're behind by that 4 months. And with the added contingency of 6 months, that means we were expecting to finish in October of 2025. But by adding that time on, now we're talking about February of 2026. But that's not the only delay, our work hours. We also built 2 shade tent systems and had to take both of them down, and that cost us about an entire month. So if we add that lost time in, then it pushes us out to March of 2026.
The question is, will we make that completion time? We just don't know.
Because the 10,000 man hours is just a guess by Schoening Designs, even though they've built a lot of boats, or had them built, of their kids. The fact is, this is hull number 1 of the Solitaire 1520. And we helped design that model, so we know it's the very first one being built. And it's very hard to estimate something that's never been built before.
Yeah, and with it being hull number 1, there were a lot of mistakes in the kit, and we have to either fix or repair those mistakes.
And that takes quite a bit of time. So that's some other man hours that weren't in their original estimates.
This kind of thing is to be expected in hull number 1 of a new model, so we're not complaining about it, but those hours were not in the original estimate.
Right. Finally, let's remember that Brian and I are not professional boat builders. This is the first boat, at least of this size, that either of us has built. And so the Schoening estimates of 10,000 hours might be for a professional boatyard and not for first-time builders like us, so will likely take more time.
Now you know why we ran that poll of our viewers to guess how long it would take us to finish. It's anyone's guess. And there were some guesses as high as 10 years.
That's true. The truth is, we have no idea how long it's going to take us to finish this boat. But I'm not going to leave you with that much of an unsatisfying answer. The truth is that we're not going to be able to do it in the 10,000 hours that Schoening said, but we can guess based on how much we've accomplished so far and how much we think we have left to go, and get some kind of a guesstimate on how long that's going to take us. And I believe that we're looking at about halfway right now. So in the first 17 months, we somewhere around halfway, and which means that we have something like around 16 months to go still.
That brings us to March of 2026, which is nearly a year past our original 2-year completion date and 5 months beyond our contingency date.
Right. So that means that right this minute, we're about 2.5 months over schedule. And we're adding another 2.5 months to the next half because we learned our lesson. And so that gives us why we get to our new completion date based on those things. In the end, it's going to take as long as it takes because these are just estimates. And all we can do is just keep working on the boat until we splash. And then we'll keep working on the boat because we're going to have to do maintenance, and we're going to break 3 things every time we do a passage.
Yep, so there you have it. If nothing else changes, we'll be headed for the water in March of 2026, but we'll have to see what the future holds for us in chance of possible other delays or problems.
All right, so that brings us to the conclusion of this video, and we want to thank you all for watching and spending time with us. We always appreciate it. And thank you again to all of our patrons. We always like to mention them because they help our project so much.
Yes, thank you all so much for joining us and viewing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
And we will get started next week on just finishing the last few tasks of Phase 5, and we'll soon get to what Phase 6 is in a future video. We'll see you then.
Bye.